There might be a new man in charge of England, but we've got the same Arsenal bollocks to deal with. This is the Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Joining you this Sunday across the international break. The dullest day of the month. The Sunday of the international break. This is the day where the TGT community really has to show up, really has to turn out, because it is, it's a threat. It's a real genuine big threat. Is a Sunday on the international break. No one's awake. No one wants to do anything on a Sunday on the international break. It is I used to talk about how Tuesday is the worst day of the week. And to be fair, usually they are. But a Sunday of the international, goodness gracious me. Sundays were never meant to be this dull. They really weren't. I know I'm not doing a great marketing job here. I know I'm really not. But goodness gracious. It's weak out there. We are struggling. However, sometimes what you need is the misery of an Irishman to cheer you up, and Owen provides that to us this morning. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry. I could. For our Irish listeners out there, I apologise wholeheartedly, but I had to give it to the boy because in our chat yesterday, it was it was very funny. It was just very funny yesterday, and I enjoyed it quite greatly. Good morning to Owen in the chat, perhaps more than anyone else. And Paul, good morning to you, to Steve, to Matt G, to Rancy Gooner, Rancy Pumpkin, sorry, Arasilki, Paul. We've got Matt, we've got Stephen, we've got Loga, Maximius, Black Shine, Stevie, Damien, Knowledge, Paul, Tom, and plenty more of you guys and girls as well. Thank you. As always, Aiden says you're dead to me, Tom. Sorry, Aiden. I can't help it. It's the Englishman in me. I can't help it. We love you all, really. It's a 90 minutes. That's all that it is. 90 minutes, we separate and hate each other for 90 minutes. And then, it's and the irony, of course, of the game. We'll talk about it a bit in a second, but yeah. I can only apologise to our Irish brothers and sisters this morning. Please make sure, I know it's going to be tough for some, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. And I hope you're having a fantastic weekend, even though, of course, it is predicated on the dullness of the international break. I hope that it's, in some ways, you're able to kind of take your mind away from football. I know there are some in the chat box that probably want to take their minds away from football more than others, but less said about them, the better. Let's jump into today's story. So Owen says, reluctantly pressing the like button. Sometimes that's all you need, mate. That's all you need. Let's jump, though, shall we, to, of course, some positive news that we can all, as a collective, be very positive about. Arsenal beat Rosenborg in a 1-0 nervy win at Meadow Park yesterday. Jonas Alderweireld's side, courtesy of Frieda Arnhem, getting the goal that takes them through to the second round of the Champions League qualification, which is, in the end, hopefully it seems that Arsenal are going to be moving in that direction towards qualification. I really don't want a repeat of the pain of last year. I don't need that. I know I've spoken about it at length already, but it was a bit nervy as the game came to a close, with it being just 1-0, but Arsenal managed to get the result that they needed, and will progress through to the next stage. It's too many stages, this, man. It should be the stuff. Finish in top 4. It should just automatically qualify you, shouldn't it, really? Moving into the international men's side of things, and Havertz started behind Nicholas Füllkrug in a kind of attacking midfield, second striker type role, and scored a penalty in Germany's 5-0 win. Impressive performance overall from Julian Nagelsmann's side, with Havertz still a very key part of that. And of course, at the Euros, it was a case of how do you fit Füllkrug and Havertz into the same team? Well, of course, the answer to that is you just play both of them, and you play both of them to give the opportunity. Füllkrug getting the opening goal in 27 minutes. Jamal Musiala, Florian Wirtz, Alexander Pavlovic, and Kai Havertz with the goals on the evening to give them a very comfortable win in Germany for the first game of the Nations League. Moving forwards, and Zinchenko did not start whatsoever in the 2-1 defeat against Albania. He did come off the bench, but Ukraine, they're suffering a disappointing result against the Albanian side. They would probably have been expecting to beat. So a frustrating result there for Zinchenko. Now we move to England, though. And England, of course, beating the Republic of Ireland 2-0 on the day. Goals from Declan Rice and Jack Grealish. The irony, of course, not being lost on anyone. But this is what peed me off about yesterday's game. Saka and Rice both start, both play the full game, don't get subbed. Why? New manager, same ball, you know. I'm so close to swearing. It's just the one thing that's really grinds my gears. For some reason, we just have this incessant need to just overplay and overwork these players that need a rest, that need to be subbed. You've got players to use. Like, you can give others opportunities. Like, you even brought Jared Bowen on. Like, Anthony Gordon didn't play barely a minute in the Euros, and you've brought him off. Bring Bowen on for Saka. I really cannot get my head around the reason as to why we need to do that. Noni Madueke's on the bench. It's had a good start to the season for Chelsea. Give him a chance. Like, why are you using all of these Arsenal players all the time for full 90s? Didn't call up Ben White, obviously, and there's still that situation ongoing with the England team, despite the new manager in inverted quotation marks, of course, temporary coach Lee Carsley. Just so odd. I don't get it. And to be fair, Declan Rice had a fantastic game, setting up Grealish's goal, scoring, of course, the opening goal. Fantastic finish there. He will be missed against Tottenham. Very frustrating. But just give the guy a rest, please, in the next game against Finland. You don't need to start him. You've got other players to use them. You really, really do not have to use Declan Rice. So please, just please don't. Just give him a bit of a break. That would be great. Thank you. Oh, it's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? Anyway, Jurrien Timber made his comeback from the Netherlands national team, coming off the bench to win in a 5-2 win over Bosnia. Good result that for the Netherlands. Joshua Zirkzee scoring his first goal and his first start for his country as well. So good to see Timber back, came through the game as a substitute, getting some minutes. I think getting minutes is important here and there for a player like Timber, who's obviously still coming back and getting up to speed. So yeah, that's definitely a positive one for Timber. Moving into the final two stories of the day, a Players Tribune article from 2019 is being circulated across social media that was written by a 5-year younger Raheem Sterling. Because in that article from many moons ago, Raheem Sterling actually talks about Arsenal quite in significant detail. Actually, he talks about obviously his journey into the world of football. He talks about speaking to friends and speaking to people, of course, that have helped him along his career. I think it's Clive Ellington that he speaks about, and he says that he was kind of asked to go along and play at a Sunday League team, and said that that moment changed his life, and from that day it was football, totally obsessed. And when I was 10 or 11, I was getting scouted by some big teams in London. Fulham wanted me. Arsenal wanted me. And when Arsenal want you, of course, you're thinking you got to go there. The biggest club in London, That's what he says. His words, not mine. I'm running around telling my mates I'm off to Arsenal. But my mum is a proper warrior. She knows how to make it in this world. She's probably the most streetwise person I know. She sat me down one day and she said, look, I love you, but I don't feel you should go to Arsenal. I said, eh? She said, if you go there, there's going to be 50 players who are just as good as you. You'll just be a number. You need to go somewhere where you can work your way up. And she convinced me to go to QPR. And it was probably the best decision I ever made. Now, of course, Raheem Sterling would have been a great player, I think, for us. I think he would have had the talent to make it through the ranks at Arsenal, based upon what we saw, of course, at Liverpool and QPR before moving to Manchester City. However, it has worked out that in the end, he still, has moved to Arsenal, the biggest club in London, as he explains in that piece. Really nice words. It's worth the full read if you haven't done so already, just to kind of have a look into It's what it is. 2018, he wrote this while he was, of course, at Manchester City. So I think Manchester City, right? Maybe. Let me have a quick check. Raheem Sterling, 2018. He was with, Manchester City. He'd been there for 3 years at that point. So definitely worth a read. I recommend you go and check it out. And it's a good one. And lastly, Adrien Rabiot. Reports suggest that there is remaining some Premier League interest in the French international. We're unsure if Arsenal are indeed one of those clubs yet. I'd personally be, just to give my very honest and blunt view on this, I'd be quite surprised if indeed Rabiot was a player that Arsenal ended up moving for. It just doesn't seem like we would do a deal outside of the window, really. We talked the other day about kind of the last time Arsenal did a deal for a free agent outside of the window. But there is said to be interest from Manchester United have been spoken about. I'd be shocked if Chelsea weren't also looking at this one. But he's not in the French squad because, of course, he's still without a club. He's apparently turned down interest from Turkey and wants to remain at a high level of football in Europe's top 5 leagues. So I guess that we will see what happens with Rabiot, but I think it's unlikely that Arsenal get that deal done. You need to get the deal done, though, to make sure you're fully protected online with NordVPN by going to nordvpn.com/Gooner to get yourself a significant discount off a 1 or a 2-year plan, of course. So please do go and get that checked out and checked off your list of things to do this week during the international break. It's a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not happy with the service for whatever reason. And you can, of course, use the superpower of changing your geolocation on your mobile, your tablet, or indeed your laptop, which is just a must in 2024. I probably will need that when I hop over to Ireland, perhaps, to watch some things. Maybe I want to watch the highlights back of yesterday's game. Well, if you're abroad and you want to do that and you're location locked, a VPN is the way indeed to get around that. Of course, there is also the chance, with only very few tickets remaining, to win a signed and framed Arsene Wenger custom LED Arsenal shirts. There is well under half tickets left now. Just checking on the website. There's also chances to win a signed Pires shirt, a signed Edu shirt, and a signed Dixon shirt as well. Don't miss out. Link down in the description. All the best to those and best of luck as well. Well, let's go to part 2 and your questions right after this. Okay, no more jokes. No more jokes whatsoever. I will hold it back. I will refrain from now on from bringing them up because I can see a few of our listeners in the chat box are taking it pretty harshly. Michael O'Keefe says, very reluctant to press the like today. Aiden says, don't make me take my like down. It's good to know that you still like the video, Aiden, so I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you very much. Mick says, I feel like everyone's always asking about Arsenal, understandably maybe. Tom, how are you? Oh, Mick, that's so very kind of you. Yeah, I'm not bad, mate. I'm pretty good. I find international breaks incredibly dull. There's been a few things that have gone on this week that have been obviously more exciting. The Lincoln Park things we talked about, big arguments about crisp companies and manufacturers as well. That happened yesterday. But otherwise, yeah, pretty good. I don't think I have anything to really complain about. Working today, it's going to be a chill shift. Off to have a pizza this evening. Yeah, I can't really complain at all, to be honest. By the way, if you want an update on yesterday's drama, if you listened to the end of yesterday's show, our good friend of the show, Billy G, in the chat, didn't show up, of course. But, as I say to you, the worst thing I can ever be accused of is sometimes my sarcasm does get a little bit of the better of people, and it maybe does merge into a realm of being slightly condescending, which some people sadly don't appreciate. And I did find my comment of the show yesterday in the comment section, which has sadly since been deleted, comes from Patrick. I caught it before it was, however, deleted. Patrick saying here, Tom, when will you get rid of the condensing attitude? It's boring now. Now, I feel as though my response here was some of my best comedy genius that I can use here, but sadly, it's been deleted now, Patrick. It's a shame. It's a shame for those listening on audio platforms. I thought the response to this was someone says, if you're going to get rid of a condensing attitude, I just said, would you prefer if it evaporated? Anyway, moving forward, let's go to Aditya says, is Rabiot's mother still his agent? Family as agents are so bad for players. It's just plain dumb. Players to put their trust in family could do a job for the professionals. I'm not necessarily sure that it's kind of a sweeping, like it's always bad. I know there's been arguments that Rabiot's representation has not always been, to be honest, I've never had any dealings with myself, but I know there's been stories in the past that are very out there in the public that you can go and read. But I don't think there's like an unwritten rule that family as reps are always bad. I think there are loads of players out there that that have got family representation that have done very well for themselves. So yeah, I'm not necessarily sure. Alexander says, always check for typos when trying to be sassy in the comment section. Maggie says, Tom, I feel like everyone keeps talking about Arsenal. What the hell is happening with Chelsea? I did love, we had a comment yesterday also saying, it's the Arsenal news show and we're talking about Chelsea. That's the international break for you, my friend. That's what the international break does. You start branching out because you just simply can't always just focus on Arsenal because there's just not enough to talk about in the international break, sadly. And I really do think that with Chelsea there is an absolute storm brewing there, and to see what happens is going to be very, very interesting indeed. Very intrigued to see how that one goes down. Richard says, my daughter's got her first football match at Encorians today. Can you wish her all the best of luck? Of course I can, Richard. I hope she has an absolutely fantastic game. Go out, enjoy yourself. Don't feel like the pressure's too heavy. Just enjoy it. Just play to your best ability. Look for the pass. Play it simple. Always, don't take the hard option at an early level. You just want to play it safe, play it cool, and just be consistent. Says someone who's never managed a team in his life. That's not actually entirely true, but I'm not really sure I'm in a position to give too much footballing advice, to be fair. If anyone's seen my performance at the Emirates the other year. John says, if we signed Rabiot, who would he compete with in the Arsenal team? And do you think that he would be a decent addition? I think that he would obviously play in that left 8 position if indeed we were to bring him in. I don't think we will, for the record. But then you've got cover for Moreno. Declan Rice can maybe move to a more permanent number 6 position, which I feel is his best role in my mind. So, yeah, I look at that and I think that Rice at 6, Moreno at left 8, Rabiot as depth. I think we've got lots of options there, but I just can't see Rabiot happening. Dal says, Tom, is there any expected day that Calafiori comes back? Not at the moment, mate. Italy's next game will give us plenty of indication about when indeed we should see him back. So I don't think at the moment there is any indication that we'll have until which are, I'm just having a quick check on when the next game is. They play tomorrow against Israel, so that is at 7:45 UK time. So we'll find out tomorrow how ready Calafiori is. Also, I should point out that Ødegaard and Norway are in action tomorrow, so we'll also find out about that as well. Nunandinho says, any advice on how to cure a hangover? I'm afraid, mate, I'm not one to believe too much in all of these hangover miracle cures. My biggest tip is and this comes from when I was at university, I'd get home, I'd down a huge pint of water before bed, get up at about 5 a.m. because then obviously the water's gone through you. But just stay as hydrated as you can, mate. That's all I can say. Just as hydrated as feasibly possible. I used to love an apple tango on ice. That used to be an absolute go-to for me. With a fry up. People say like greasy food. I can't say. The issue I have if I've been on a night out is that my eyes are bigger than my belly. I'll get up. I'll be like, I really want to fry up. I feel like I need something like, I need some dirty food. And then I'll go to start eating it. And I'm like, I don't actually want this. So stay hydrated. But an apple tango on ice used to be my go-to back in the day. Aditya says, how many minutes do you think Saka will play this season with all competitions and England matches? I don't know, 4,000 plus, potentially. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous, of course, once again. Real Jen says, everybody talks about Chelsea. It's just because they're just so funny. Chelsea are just so funny. Like, they're such a funny club. It's really easy to laugh at Chelsea quite a lot for the things they do. Like, that's why we talk about Chelsea quite a bit, because they're just really funny. Louis says, how many minutes will Calafiori get in the next game, and why is it 90 minutes after an injury scare? Tim says, I just can't fathom why you, as a young player, would go to Chelsea in these past 3 years. It looks like a sinking ship because of the money, Tim. If you're going to get paid a lot of money, of course you're going to go. That's how Chelsea have been convincing players to move there during times of peril for years. Like, they pay them very, very well. John says, what do you think about the barriers of Rabiot? Money, contract length, reputation. Of course, I think at this stage, he's played at Juve for a fair few years now. I don't know if I've heard any Rabiot controversies. I mean, maybe you guys are more clued up than me, but I can't say that I've heard too much about controversy for a while. But yeah, I have absolutely... I can't remember the last time I heard something about him that was not great. Maybe, was there something about a World Cup call-up that he refused or something because of Paul Pogba? I can't remember. I feel like I need to do some Googling on it, but it will take too long at this moment in time. Winning Way says, how did they do an Arteta sleep on Raheem Diaz? For me, he would have been like a signing of Alexis Sanchez when he was at Barcelona, and he is better than what we have on the left and can cover for Saka. Where did he move to, Raheem Diaz? Did he leave? Because if he didn't leave, that probably answers your question. Let's have a quick look. Did he go anywhere? No, he didn't. He's still at Real Madrid. So I guess it's not a case of sleeping on Diaz. Real Madrid have kept him, and clearly they want to keep him. So I don't think it's a case of sleeping on Diaz here because he didn't move. It would make sense to say, I can't believe they slept on that deal if he moved somewhere else and they didn't move for him, but he didn't. So I don't know how they can sleep on it. Let's go to Akshat says, very worried about the low number of appearances from Win in the latest Arsenal video. Any update on that? I don't think you need to be worried about that. Where is... Oh, Win's in the other room. Sorry. Brett says, drink something with electrolytes like Powerade. There you go. It's more hangover advice this morning in the chat box. Aditya says, I love all the Civil War stuff at Chelsea. It's typically bad ownership that we had at KSC and Usmanov. The Usmanov KSC era, I mean, some younger listeners, obviously, that are part of the show, that makes me feel incredibly old, won't even really be consciously aware of the KSE Usmanov era of Arsenal and what that was. And I remember listening to people saying they'd met Usmanov in Monaco before a Champions League game, and he was talking about how he was going to turn Arsenal into world beaters, and they came back and spoke on podcasts about it. I remember sitting there like years ago, like 7 years ago, saying, did you really all fall for that? Like, you expected him to turn around to you and say, oh, yeah, I think we might spend a bit of money, but I want to do a sustainable approach to things. It might take a few years before we get anywhere, but it's like, of course he was going to say that. Like, how naive are we? Of course he was going to turn around to you and say, oh, because he's got a minority stake. Of course he wants the backing of the Arsenal fans. And my goodness me, thank goodness we never did. Thank goodness Usmanov had nothing to do with Arsenal and has nothing to do with Arsenal now, because Arsenal are far more better for it. John says, Tom Sterling has a lot to prove. Do you see him displacing Martinelli and Trossard? I don't know, but I know that he certainly feels that he has got the quality to be able to do that. So yeah, certainly that's something. Stu says, isn't Win touring with the ladies? The ladies are back now, Stu. They're already playing at Meadow Park in their Champions League qualifier games. Lumen says Spurs has a chance to end our season after the international break. Oh, without a doubt. Like, if we don't beat Spurs, that's a big blow to Arsenal's title challenge. It is worth pointing out that there is a number of points that Arsenal dropped, of course, at the start of last season, which will compare, I think. In fact, that was definitely a plan of mine today, is to look at the points that were dropped at the start of last season and comparing points tallies to see how many points Arsenal could afford to lose to improve upon in this season. So comparing points title tallies is a piece I'm going to do later, so I'll make a note of that. Ashmas has just joined the live. Why am I seeing bartender courses? Craig says, do you think we'll go for Rabiot? No, I don't. Omar says, Tom, why are our players being asked to play 90 minutes or so every international match? I don't like it. Your guess is as good as mine. Arthur says, since Aubameyang, do you think Arteta is careful with who he brings into the squad? And is that a concern with players like Tony and Rabiot? Of course, Arteta is so meticulous about who he does and does not want in the Arsenal team. So important to Arteta to get the right players in at the right time. So, yeah, Arthur, you're absolutely spot on, my friend. Winning Ways is, if something happens to Odegaard, we don't have another creative player. Some will say we got Nwaneri, but that's a lot of pressure. We're chasing the title, and that's why I said Raheem Diaz. Again, he's playing minutes at Real Madrid. It's not like he's not playing minutes with them. So it's going to be very difficult to convince him, I think, to leave his dream club, come to Arsenal, especially when you're going to say, again, he's not going to start games for us, So would you rather be a utility player for Real Madrid or a utility player for Arsenal? And I think there's probably an obvious answer to that question. Ditcher says, talking about Usmanov, do you think Everton is the next club which is in danger of being a new Sunderland? I mean, if they go down, I think there's going to be a real struggle for them to get back up. A very big struggle, even with their new stadium. I mean, entering a new stadium, having just been relegated, is simply not what you need. It's really not. There's so much pressure on Everton this season to stay up, so much. And they've already lost first 3 games. They've already conceded 4 against Spurs, 3 against Brighton, and 3 against Bournemouth. So 10 goals conceded already. Ike, oh, sorry, I did get it right. Is it Ike? Ike? You tell me, mate. Remind me. Is there any reason that we're wary of Spurs at the moment? We're clearly ahead of them. It's a derby. Like it's a derby. North London derbies can do anything, go anywhere, create scenarios you didn't expect. And I really do struggle to see how anyone could just go into that game without any semblance of some nerves. Like any form goes out the window for the derby. It doesn't matter how good they've been, how good we've been, how poor they've been, how questionable we've been. It doesn't matter. Derbies are just different, and that's always the way that it goes. Chris says, Tom, will Arsenal raise the value of Sterling? Potentially, yeah. If he does well, yeah. And you might say that's a benefit to Chelsea, but he'll be 30 next year. He's got 2 years left on his contract. At the end of that, I don't think it's a concern of Arsenal's. Adele says, Tom, I think Martinelli hasn't played his best with us, so I think Sterling could go in the squad instead of him. What are your thoughts? I think obviously Trossard will probably start the derby still. But maybe Sterling surprises. Maybe Arteta really does lean on Sterling and he becomes a bit of a favourite. We'll have to wait and see. Alvamod says, can't see how we'll win the Premier League with this squad. Quality is there, but the depth isn't. We could add another 15 games this year and we're already suffering after 3, Alvamod. But I know a lot of people feel this way. A lot of people feel that we haven't got a strong enough squad. And we will only find out whether or not that's the case throughout the course of this season. It wasn't a depth problem as to why we've struggled. We say we're suffering after 3 games. It wasn't because of depth that we didn't win our 3rd game of the season in a row. It was because of the referee. We all know that. So until depth actually comes up as the reason, we will continue to plough forwards. Okay. Ike says, it's Ike like Ike Turner. Who's Ike Turner? I don't know. It's an American musician. See, my music is not in that sphere, I'm afraid. So that one went way over my head, I'm afraid. And I know I'm going to get a lot of people in the comment section going, how on earth do you not know who Ike Turner is? Which I'm sure. Was it? No, I'm not even going to say anything because if I say anything, I'm just going to embarrass myself. So I'm going to stop. I'm just going to stop. Tina Turner's. I can't speak. Tina Turner's husband. Okay, thank you. Now I know who you're talking about. Okay, cool. Thank you, people. That gives me a frame of reference I can actually use. Yes. RRDM says the next 2 games will show the current status of the team and also show our prospects for the season. The true character of some fickle fans will be displayed. Idan says, if we want to go for a big creative player next summer, a Musiala or a Havertz can be available. Maybe an Arda Güler if he takes the spotlight when Raheem Diaz could leave. Tony says, I think that we'll drop points against Spurs. Unfortunately, it's a tough run of fixtures and the team doesn't seem to be at it. And by the time they get there, it might be too late. Yeah, there you go. I'm now trying to scroll past all the people telling me how stupid I am. Mick says, I don't get this notion that we don't have a strong enough squad. Like we lost the league by 2 points. We've improved our floor and City haven't improved as much as us. This is the thing. Like, City lost Julian Alvarez and they haven't replaced him. They brought in Savinho, who I don't think is as good as Julian Alvarez, and they brought back Gundogan to the club as well. Liverpool have brought in Chiesa and that's it. It's interesting how kind of, how, what's the word? end of worldly people already are at such a big early stage of the season. I could never be like that. I really can't. I really can't. In my mind, anyway, like at all, picture myself being so negative at such an early stage of the campaign. Surprise Cow says, Tom, which relative of yours is in Uganda? No, my relatives aren't in Uganda. I've got a family member who is of Ugandan heritage. So yes, that's the link that's there. Chilo says, I do understand why Arteta didn't bring in a striker. Better to wait and get the right person that fits over bringing in a body like Tony or Osimhen. I do feel Gyökeres, though, is the one that they want next. I think Šeško was the player that they were more keen on than Gyökeres. Gyökeres, again, also having an excellent international break. The way, if you've not seen his goal for Sweden, go and check it out. It's very, very good. I think Gyökeres will probably be on the market next summer as one of the biggest movers. Be intriguing to see if Arsenal are the club that go for him. Mikey says, this may be our most challenging part of the season in terms of fitness and form. I can only see soul-searching and improvements resulting from it. It may benefit us in the long term. Omar says, it's a long season. Hold your horses. Last season, City in the beginning was wayward, and then they put some more steroids into their players. Went on a rampage. All alleged hypothetical scenarios there, Omar. Of course, it's worth pointing out. Alexander says, we'll feel better about the squad once injuries calm down. We've been unlucky at the moment. Wonton Soup says, if Haaland gets injured, how is City's depth? It's a really good point. Jimmy says, where's Billy? Where is Billy? Billy's been so quiet since his comment yesterday. We want Billy back. Hashtag Billy back in the chat. Hashtag where's Billy? Loga says, is getting through a tough start to the season actually a benefit? Of course. What do you mean? Is getting through a tough start to the season actually? Of course it's a benefit. What do you mean? Chris says, Tom, did you see Sol Campbell's comments about how good, how he should have been knighted? I haven't. It sounds like a very Sol Campbell thing to say. Let's have a quick look, shall we? Sol Campbell news. Sol Campbell insists he deserves a knighthood and questions why he's always overlooked as ex-England star claims he is up with some of the sporting greats of our country. You don't usually get one when you ask for one. It's probably worth pointing out. He says, I think for me, when it comes to honours and lists, if it comes to a popularity contest, there's a lot of people who are unpopular who have Sirs, OBEs and MBEs. If you look at what I've done and what I've gone through playing football and the consistency over the course of 2 decades under severe pressure in a football sense, I'm up with some of the sporting greats of our country. I'm a proud Englishman and I've done a lot for football, on and off the field, and for racism. Also, I'm not even talking about the records I've acquired playing football for my country and domestically for me, Tottenham and Arsenal for me. I'm up with the rest of them. He added, Campbell added that it would have been an honour to receive a knighthood and any other distinction. He says, I don't know why I'm overlooked for these kind of occasions. I'm not the only sporting great that has been overlooked, but for me, I'm seeing all these other people get these gongs and these accolades, and it's special. For me, it would be an honour to have Sir, OBE, for a Sir, an OBE, or an MBE for the sport I've committed to over 2 decades. The most recent footballer to receive a knighthood was Sir Kenny Dalglish in 2018. The Scot made 538 appearances for Liverpool and Celtic, winning 8 titles and 3 European Cups. He also became a manager and won a lot as well. I'm never a fan like of people like asking for awards. Like it's I think he's probably done himself more harm than good with those words, to be honest. If he'd have got, let's put it this way, if he'd have got a Sir, an OBE, or an MBE, no one would have batted an eyelid at it in the terms of, like, it would have been, yeah, Sol Campbell's probably earned that for what he's won with Arsenal and, his service to England. And, I don't think anyone really would have questioned it, would they? And as he points out, he's done a lot of work in the social spaces as well. And the challenge there. So no one would have really, I think, been surprised. And I think that's a credit to Sol Campbell. But you can't say that you think you deserve one, because now it's ruined if he ever did get one, isn't it? Like, I'm trying to think of like a comparable example, what's more personal to me, but I'm struggling. Yeah, I'm not even going to attempt it. I just think that it just feels odd that to ask for a not that he's asking for one necessarily, but just to kind of argue that he should have got one by now. if you're ever going to get one, it doesn't come through saying things. And now I feel like he's closed that door. And if he hasn't closed that door, then ultimately he's sullied the accolade if it ever does arrive at his doorstep. So yeah, it doesn't work really at all. Anyway, that's probably what I didn't really want to end on that point, but I think I'm running out of time, so I'm going to. Thank you so much always for listening. Please do drop a like before you go and help us on our way to 1K every single day. Sundays are tough, as I said, so if you could help us out, that would be great. Tickets to our live event are still in the description as well. Thank you to those that have bought them. There's less than 20 going now. I checked it this morning. Less than 20 tickets left. So grab them while you can. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Appreciate your time. And I will speak to you tomorrow morning. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful, and keep moaning about Saka and Rice playing 90 minutes. And as always, up the Arsenal.